Our Lady of Sorrows, she knows our pain more than any other mother. And on the cover here, I'm just grateful that the Martins got this book, and there's some extra ones there. It's an image of Our Lady with children, and my two children, Thomas and Angelica, are painted on the front. My wife had dreams of them the night they died. She saw both of them, and this image, when I was praying for the Blessed Sacrament, I'm not a mystic, but this image came to me, and so my friend painted it, and all these children you see here are the children. We have different stories in this book, and recently we updated the book and we added some stories, and I just want to share one story. And several of the stories, women actually, they saw their children in heaven. They saw Our Lady holding their babies. There's 3 or 4 accounts, and one of them, I just want to read this real quick. This is a funeral homily that a priest preached. I know this priest, he's the pastor in Wisconsin, and this is one of the girls. She's in the hospital miscarrying her baby, and she's describing Our Lady. She says, "The woman had long, curly, dark hair, snow-white skin, and beautiful blue eyes which gazed at Veronica. The expression on the woman's face was very pleasant, calming, and peaceful, concerned for Veronica and reassuring. Veronica says she looked absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, such that no model could compare. The woman's lips moved as slowly, spoke with a very feminine, light, and calming, beautiful voice, which echoed with some reverberation. And this is what she said: 'Veronica, do not be afraid. I will take care of this child as I have taken care of my son, Jesus. Do not worry and do not cry.'" So this is what Our Lady said to her. And so I really want you, before I get into my talk, just to really let those words soak in for you too, that Our Lady, she's taking care of our children in the Nursery of Heaven. This morning, I have the privilege of talking to you about my favorite people in the world, besides the Martins, that is, but the saints, and how they surrendered to God's will in the midst of the greatest tragedy, that of losing a child. Now, biographers of saints are quick to point out their holiness, their ecstasies, their extended fasts, but often buried or perhaps intentionally overlooked is the theme of child loss. I remember reading the biography of St. Gianna Molla to find only one line about her 2 miscarriages. I thought to myself, if only the biographer would have went deeper on this matter, if only a witness could have shared how these 2 miscarriages affected her. Did she bounce back right away, or did these tragedies really impact her? What did she do to heal? Now, thanks be to God, I was able to find a witness, a living relic in her daughter, Gianna Emanuela, and it's been a blessing. I've become good friends with her. And so she called me up when she comes to the United States. I think she's in North Dakota right now. She often comes there. And she'll call me up on the phone and she goes, "Hello, Patrick." And I just have her on my speaker. I'm like, "Man, you gotta hear this. It's a living relic." And so I was able to interview her, and we put this in the book Nursery of Heaven, and this is what she said. "My mom and my dad," forgive me, I'm getting over a cold. "My mom and my dad accepted these sufferings, but it was not easy. Throughout their lives, they always accepted God's holy will, even when it was very difficult to accept, and when it was not immediately understandable. They always recognized God's plan was the best plan. Despite their sorrows, they always completely trusted in divine providence." Now, St. Gianna miscarried 2 children between her 3rd and 4th child. These were the result of a huge fibromyoma, a benign tumor in the uterus, which was discovered 2 months into her pregnancy with her 4th child, which would indirectly lead to her death. But like St. Gianna's miscarriages being glanced over, isn't our child loss also forgotten by others? Is it not overlooked by the world? They say you can just have another one. After St. Gianna died, her husband would not only grieve his wife, but they also lost another daughter who died at the age of 6. Pietro declared, "I clung to Jesus crucified." And further, "Pain remains a mystery think kind of like echoing Father's homily, like this, it's a mystery why we suffer. We don't know. And, someday God will reveal that to us. Although St. Gianna's husband is not officially canonized, his strong faith helped him see through the unspeakable tragedy of losing both his wife and a child. Sound familiar? Yes. The mother of sorrows knows this pain. So many saints know this pain. In our darkest moments from losing a loved one, such as a child, or perhaps some of you have lost a spouse or a parent, we have only one clear choice. Cling to our crucified lover, or be swept away by the tides of despair and bitterness. St. Gianna and her husband also remind us to embrace the mystery, which is the cross. Often our mind searches for answers. God, why did this happen? Why did you allow my child to die? As we know, these questions can never fully be answered in this life, because death, especially child loss, remains one of the greatest and most painful mysteries. But just because we cannot have all the full answers in this life does not mean that God leaves us dumbfounded and lost. No, Jesus is the good shepherd. I was thinking about your beautiful stained glass window above the altar, just that light coming through, and that is Jesus, the good shepherd, and he's holding us. He's holding our children. Now, several saints have also lost children at all ages. Saints and future saints. Saint Alphonsus Rodriguez. Blessed Catalina de Maria Rodriguez. It was so beautiful. She had a stillbirth daughter, and then after her daughter and her husband passed away, she became a nun, and she took her religious name, Catalina, after her daughter. Blessed Frederick Anzeman. St. Louis and Zélie Martin, the parents of St. Therese, they lost 4 children. Servants of God Cyprian and Daphros Rugamba had a miscarriage. And servant of God Chiara Corbella Petrina all experienced the tragedy of burying a child. Now, saints also lost siblings. St. Catherine of Siena lost her twin sister at birth. St. Jose Maria Escriva lost 3 siblings. Child loss is a travesty that wounds the entire family, from grandparents down to siblings. And I have the privilege here, my son Jude is 9, and we were blessed after 7 years with another daughter. I can't believe Mela is her name, and that was due to the prayers of Mother Angelica and Cardinal Burke. But it really pains me more than anything to see my son. Often he plays by himself. We go to church, and I just see him, and I see all these big families. I'm so grateful that God's blessed us with children, but I'm not going to lie, it's painful. It's painful to go to playgrounds, painful to be in the pew, and I see him just by himself. And I realize his brother Thomas would have been 2 years younger than him. And so I just asked, the Lord, that sorrow, for all of you, I'm sorry for your loss. It just never goes away. And I think often we forget about the siblings. And so it's really important to remember that. And also our dear priests. When I was in high school, one of my classmates, she was a senior, and I was a freshman at the time, but she ran over her little brother. He was 2 years old, backed out of the car. He was underneath the tires, and that tragedy, just destroyed the family. And I remember the priest, he became an alcoholic after that. He just couldn't handle it. And I think he got better, but I'm just saying, remember our priests to pray for them, because they're counseling these families, and it breaks their heart. A more modern day and future saint is servant of God Chiara Corbella Petrillo. If you haven't read her story, there's a great book by Sophia Press called Witness to Joy. And she is referred to as the second Gianna. She was born on January 9, 1984, just a few months before I was born. And a month after her wedding, she and her husband conceived. However, she and her husband would soon find out that their daughter was missing part of her brain, skull, and scalp. When she heard the news, she just wept in her mother's arms. Her husband was away at a dental surgery. Chiara Enrico's daughter Maria lived for 30 minutes, and few friends came to the funeral mass because they did not know what to say. And they heroically, they were advised by all these doctors, abort your child. No, we're not going to do that. A few months later, she became pregnant again. Tragically, the ultrasound showed that her child was missing one leg and a part of her arm. Their child also had no kidneys. Their son David lived for 38 minutes. And again, fewer people attended the funeral compared to Maria's. Does not suffering reveal to us who our true friends are, and at the same time who we are? During her third pregnancy, which was normal, she was diagnosed with cancer, which would eventually take her life. After her third child was born normal, Francesco. And I want to read something she wrote to her son, and it's in my book, Nursery of Heaven. She says this: "Do not be discouraged, my son. God does not take anything away from you. If he takes something away from you, it is only because he wishes to give you so much more. Thanks to Maria and David, we are more in love than ever with eternal life, and we have never stopped being afraid of death. Therefore, God has taken from us in order to give us bigger hearts and to be open to receiving eternity during this earthly life." After St. John Vianney's mother passed away, it was said that he lost all attachment to this world. Many of us say the same things. When we lose a child, part of us has died to the world, and for some of us, we no longer feel any attachment to the world. I would imagine that many saints went through some degree of depression after losing a loved one. In fact, the great Saint Padre Pio, he felt so depressed after his mother died that he couldn't even attend her funeral mass. Yes, a part of us wants to die and be with Christ and to go to heaven. This is normal. But the real quest is to abandon ourselves to God's will. In another book I co-authored just for men called Grief of Dads, I talk about St. Joseph. Now in the book, The Mystical City of God, which Our Lady revealed her life to the Venerable Maria Margherita, she said something about St. Joseph and the child Jesus when he was lost for 3 days. This is what she said: "During all those 3 days, he had suffered unspeakable sorrow and affliction, hastening from one place to another, sometimes without his heavenly spouse, sometimes with her. He was in serious danger of losing his life during this time, if the hand of the Lord had not strengthened him, and if the most prudent lady had not consoled him and forced him to take some food and rest. His sincere and exquisite love for the divine child made him so anxious and solicitous to find him that he would have allowed himself no time or care to take nourishment for the support of nature." The fact that St. Joseph almost lost his life from the grief of losing Jesus reveals that even the holiest saints were not immune to grief. Grief is real, and it shows no partiality to saints and sinners. Unhealthy grieving can lead to our own demise, especially when we neglect our basic needs. There is a real temptation, like St. Joseph faced, where grief can literally kill us, easily end our marriage, or lead us to reject our faith altogether. The saints beckoned us to trust the Father, and trust our Blessed Mother. One of the greatest tragedies in life is to feel as if no one understands our pain, which is true, but not 100% true. The saints in heaven understand our pain, and most of all, God understands our pain. Child loss is one, if not the greatest sorrows in this life, but we don't carry it alone. There are so many invisible Simon of Cyrenes. Their names are St. Giannamola, Servant of God, Piero Cobella, St. John Vianney, St. Padre Pio, St. Joseph, and the list goes on. So remember that when your earthly friends fail you, your heavenly friends